On December 8th, 2023, John Morosi tweeted, "Sources, Shohei Ohtani is en route to Toronto today." A representative of his agency, CAA, would not comment when asked about Ohtani's travel plans. At this hour, Ohtani does not have a signed agreement with any MLB team. This is the Museum of Twitter, the show where we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. It's Sports Tweet Saturday, and this might be the most relevant time for me to ever cover this tweet. Because the tweet is about Shohei Ohtani possibly going to the Toronto Blue Jays when in fact he went to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and now the Dodgers and the Blue Jays are playing in the World Series. And I use the word important in my intro, which is kind of like a catch-all word because I want to cover both good and bad tweets, but this tweet was important for like 5 minutes. Which team was going to get Shohei Ohtani in December of 2023 was one of the biggest stories in all of baseball. Shohei Ohtani is, in my opinion, probably the greatest baseball player ever to live, and it's a sport that was invented during the American Civil War. And so it was a huge deal who was going to land him. And for a brief moment, John Morosi, who's not just some schmo, he's a reporter for MLB Network, he tweeted that Shohei Ohtani was en route to Toronto. And Toronto was one of the teams that actually had a good chance of getting him. As recent reporting from Keegan Matheson went through, they actually had him visit their spring training facility in Dunedin, Florida. And he met with everyone in the team, like they were definitely on the short list. So the idea of him getting on a plane to Toronto really could only mean one thing. And as people are wont to do in sports, they tracked this plane. It's not as big in the MLB as it is in other sports, but people do it in the MLB. Perhaps the most famous example of a plane being tracked to tell someone about who was going to sign where was when they tracked LeBron James's plane when he re-signed with the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2014. But definitely the place that's used the most in American sports is with college football. And honestly, it's the most accurate there because a lot of times these coaches are flying out of like regional airports. And so yeah, it is fair to say that like a private jet flying out of the airport in Tuscaloosa is probably having to do with the Alabama Crimson Tide football job. But when you think through it, can you really do that with Los Angeles to Toronto? There are presumably a lot of people who might want to fly private between Los Angeles and Toronto. But for the moments right after John tweeted that, people weren't thinking that. They're like, oh my god, a credible reporter was tweeting that Ohtani was flying to Toronto. Gary Sheffield Jr. said, no way he's flying to Toronto, clearing customs just to tell them no. Ohtani is a Blue Jay. BetMGM posted this photo from Forrest Gump and said, Blue Jays fans waiting on the tarmac at Pearson to hear Shohei Ohtani's decision. But all of this was short-lived. As the community note that now adorns John Morosi's tweet will tell you, he didn't sign with the Blue Jays. In fact, he was not on that plane at all. As Bob Nightingale reported, Shohei Ohtani is not in Toronto. Ohtani is not on a flight to Toronto. Ohtani is at home in Southern California. It was a huge blunder, one of the biggest blunders in sports reporting history on Twitter, to be completely honest with you. Later that day, John Morosi apologized, saying, "Today I posted reporting that included inaccurate information that Shohei Ohtani was traveling to Toronto. I regret the mistake and apologize to baseball fans everywhere. I am deeply sorry for letting you down." I do love the use of the phrase included inaccurate information, because like that implies that there is some accurate information. I suppose it's accurate information that Shohei Ohtani's agency is CAA, but that's like the only accurate thing in the tweet. And if you're wondering how this mistake could have happened, we really don't know. We don't know if John Morosi's only source of information was flight plans. If it was, he probably shouldn't be a professional sports reporter anymore, but I don't think a lot of professional sports reporters should still be sports reporters, so whatever. It turns out that the person on that plane was none other than Canadian billionaire and Shark Tank panelist Robert Herjavec. Which makes a lot of sense. He is a Canadian billionaire who spends a lot of his time in Los Angeles. It makes sense that he would take a private jet from Los Angeles to Toronto. And people immediately started raking John over the coals for this. I feel like fairly understandably. Streetcar Good tweeted a gif of someone making McDonald's hamburgers with John Morosi in a couple days. Z Barry tweeted, "Get ready to learn never appear on the Fan 590 ever again, ease buddy." In Internet Hall of Fame, an account I have some quibbles with, but I think this is absolutely true given that I'm talking about this. Despite your nice apology, just know that unfortunately this will be tied with you forever until the end of time. Just make sure you can handle it. That's really harsh, but unfortunately it is true. Once again, it is 2025 in October and I'm talking about it. And Blue Jays fans definitely held on to this moment. I think you can understand why. Since Shohei Ohtani has been with the Dodgers, he's been the greatest baseball player on the planet and the greatest baseball player of my lifetime, possibly the greatest baseball player ever. Even last year in September of 2024, a Blue Jays enthusiast tweeted, "I'm never forgiving you, Morosi." And when it looked like the Dodgers and the Blue Jays might meet in the World Series, Phil tweeted, "If the World Series is Blue Jays-Dodgers, it's only fair that John Morosi throws out the first pitch in Game 1. And when the World Series turned out to be Blue Jays-Dodgers, this tweet had a whole new breath of life breathed into it. Because lots of people thought they were extremely clever tweeting something out like this. Quinn tweeting ahead of its time, and then a screenshot of just sources. Shohei Ohtani is en route to Toronto today. Reporter Chris Johnson tweeted a photo after the Blue Jays won the ALCS with, "It's real and it's spectacular. I guess Shohei Ohtani is finally on a plane to Toronto." And in a piece of professional ribbing, Jeff Passan, another MLB reporter, quoted a photo of Shohei Ohtani about to board a plane with, "Shohei Ohtani is en route to Toronto today." Look, I'm not a professional reporter, so I can't judge that much, but I feel like getting wrong where the best player in the history of your sport is going to play for the prime of his career is a mistake you just can't make. And so while we all make mistakes, I think this is the type of mistake that, like, yeah, should still be famous 2 years later. I can only imagine the wave of disappointment that Blue Jays fans had when they read a tweet that Ohtani was coming to Toronto, only to, like, very shortly afterwards read, "No, he's not coming to Toronto." though. It would be like getting your lottery numbers read out loud on the TV only for them to say, wait, I misspoke, that's actually 2, not a 1. Speaking of people who have a lot of money, for his part, Robert Herjavec is pulling for the Blue Jays. When asked if he was rooting for them, he said, I have to, because I've already disappointed the entire country once. I'm hoping, with my moral support, this will redeem me to Canadians. The Blue Jays are up 1-0 in the series as I do this tweet, so let's hope Robert is right. As far as I'm concerned, unless you're a Los Angeles Dodgers fan, this series the Toronto Blue Jays are America's team. Follow me for a new tweet every day, and if you like the show and you want to support me, please go to patreon.com/museum of Twitter, where you can get a weekly bonus episode called the Museum of Not Twitter, and you can access my Discord where you can vote on what I cover on Subscriber Sundays.